Okay, good evening. Thank you all for coming. Today is Thursday, June 26th. It's approximately 7:38 in the evening. This is the RTM Public Works Committee meeting. We're going to be a little flexible with today's agenda. Although the first thing on the agenda is to vote and approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
Sorry, with respect.
Yes.
The first thing on the agenda is actually the secretary. We have a secretary tonight.
Oh, yes, that's a problem.
Oh, no.
Eric already told me he can't make it.
Okay,
The alternate was Paul Ferrone, who is at this point a no-show.
excellent.
So
I'm glad to do it. If
we
you want to give me
technically
a pen and
do
paper.
not have a secretary.
I volunteer.
If you're willing to
I
volunteer.
volunteer as tribute.
Wow, we're into the 80s already. Didn't anticipate
Frank,
that.
I appreciate your,
Wow.
I'll take the pencil, it's fine.
thank you, Frank. All right, so, review and vote to approve minutes of the previous meeting. I sent that out with the alert, the minutes from the past meeting. I hope you've all read it. Did anybody have any comments, corrections? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Jeff moves, so I have a second. Rich Bonte. Okay, all those in favor of approving the last minutes for the meeting of May 1st, I believe it was. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to skip on down to some other items on the agenda while we're waiting for our guests to show. Town plan, conservation and development. Again, also which I sent out with the warning is the results from the survey that they had published recently based upon their meetings with numerous different boards, committees, so on and so forth. And there's a lot of interesting information in there. They have scheduled a public hearing for July 9th. They're calling it a workshop, it's a public hearing. And, we met with them as the Public Works Committee, but if you wanted to have further interface with the consultants about anything related to the plan of conservation and development, July 9th is your opportunity to do so. It's being held at the Mather Center, I think in the area where they have the cafeteria and everything. Okay, so I just want to make you all aware of that. I think I'm going to go. I haven't yet formulated all my thoughts on what I might say, but that would be your opportunity. Another item on the agenda is I just listed it as a budget debriefing.
And I'm sorry, just to finish off the plan of conservation development, we had some input to the plan.
Yes, sir.
When we met with the consultant a few months ago.
Yes, sir.
Just trying to put it in context. And so this is a public hearing, or is it
Correct.
a hearing for the RTM?
It's a public hearing.
Okay, so we would be showing up as citizens, not as
Yes,
RTM.
I would be showing up as Rolf Owen, 9 Archer Lane. Okay? Not as whatever Public Works Committee of the RTM.
Thank you.
Okay, and you all certainly have the same opportunity. Okay, so the budget meeting that was held and the discussion that came up about the 6-year capital plan. Does anybody have any afterthoughts about how that all went down? And if so, I'd love to hear it. I see some smiling faces. Frank, would you
I'm
have
glad to,
anything?
look, I think that the way it was bundled together
Mhm.
made it challenging for us to have an opinion on that process, right? So I guess if you're looking for feedback, my feedback wouldn't be so much to you, Rolf. I thought you handled that masterfully, right? But it would be more to the either the rule committee or the F&D committee, that if people want to express an opinion, they should make it easier for us to do so, maybe by breaking things up into segments. Maybe that was their goal, was to bundle everything so that there was no dissent theoretically allowable. But the process we went through was clear that we wanted to express an opinion, right?
Yeah, I think we got the message across.
Right.
You know, what's gonna happen from here out.
Did
I'm
you
not
hear
exactly
additional
sure.
feedback from anybody about our proceedings in our meeting or the way the vote came out in the RTM?
No, I haven't received any feedback.
No one's contacted me.
No, and I think, I mean, for F&B, I mean, there was a certain undertone during the discussion of the 6-year capital plan is just something we have to do, kind of ignore it really, it's not really what we, so to me, F&B should take seriously the 6-year capital plan. So as we go into next year's, I think it's important. I'll make that suggestion to Jack kind of as a budget liaison who's involved in the process. But it's like we're making major capital investments. Those shouldn't just pop up on the radar screen every year. So I felt like that theme of the 6-year capital plan doesn't really matter that much. What are you making such a big deal about it for? Was an inappropriate part of the budget process. So then, since in the end, we as a committee were not called upon to comment on the 6-year capital plan at all. It wasn't actually in, Rules Committee didn't give it to us, to our committee, or to any committee to comment on. We took it upon ourselves to comment on it. I thought our input into it was, you know, fully well-grounded and heard by both the first selectman, the finance director, and hopefully by F&B. So we'll see how it comes out this coming year, but I thought it was a good highlighting of this as an important thing. I didn't get the impression that it will be taken more seriously next year, but maybe I'm just hoping it will.
So I would,
I guess what I would want to, I'm sorry, just very quickly. What I really liked about the process was the additional transparency about, because I don't think we've ever had a presentation like John's Garasti gave to, now, I may agree or disagree with his priorities and with the things he said, but at least we had a presentation about a 6-year plan, and I don't think we've ever had that before.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that was really good. I think maybe, then to come on your point, the guidance should be with a little more clarity about what level of commitment does this represent when we vote on a 6-year plan.
Right.
So maybe a little more context and guidance. I'm sorry, Ian.
that's all right. I want to echo 2 points that we made earlier, but to your point about, I don't know if it was Rules Committee or whatever, but how that showed up to us to vote on in this committee did not mirror how the vote was structured in the general RTM, and that I actually object to, because it would have changed what I voted on here, right? Because we could not separate the vote here, but we could there. That seems odd to me, right? And so my feedback to Rules is send it to us as you're going to send it to the general RTM. Stand or fall based on what you're going to put in front of the general RTM. And we're falling here, but that's fine. Like, that's the point. And Jeff, to your point, the undertone was palpable, even though I wasn't in any of those meetings. Like, it shone through. I don't know if the feedback is for F&B or the actual Board of Finance. I don't know who sets the capital budget, but the more I've reflected on it, I will say it here very clearly, it's a bad plan, because it implies that all of our maintenance is going to decline over 6 years. Why? We don't factor inflation in. Like, these are simple things that, it's a flat number. Costs are not flat. So we're, like, if inflation is 3%, then we're effectively saying we're gonna do 3% less maintenance every year. And these are very simple things that anybody, like, I don't do professional budgeting, but I do enough budgeting. Like, these are basic assumptions that we're just not spending any time on.
Right, and the paving budget is adjusted for inflation?
The which one?
The paving budget.
Correct. And therefore, by exclusion,
Right.
everything else is not.
Exactly, and so that's why, so it makes it more obvious that it's like, okay, some things get some attention, and a bunch of other things don't get enough attention.
But, and this is where I get frustrated, it's like, take the Excel file, put in your inflation factor, and draw, like, I can even draw the little cursor out for 4 cells like,
Right.
to the right. Like, we can do this.
Mark, do you have anything that you would,
I don't know who authored the
6-year?
6-year plan. I know it was in some of the earlier rounds of the budget presentations, I remember even noticing the drop that we all talked about. But where it starts, I don't know.
It starts with the finance director, and then then Jen. So formerly Jen and now Jen.
But do the department heads?
The department heads all
Usually they
funnel
take-
that in to the finance director, who prepares the first version. It gets approved by I forgot Jen's current title, but Kathy.
Town administrator.
The town
Town
administrator.
administrator, then it goes
And
to
then-
board of selectmen,
and then it goes to
board of
board of
finance.
selectmen.
And
So,
then-
but-
And I watched it, and you and I were actually in some of those meetings. You know, it was always like the last item discussed, and hell, we got a 6-year plan. But it pretty much was unchanged. I don't remember any material changes from the first draft.
Right.
So that's where you gotta go back to, is how did they get formed? Comments probably should have been earlier on.
But the fact that we commented directly on it
Yeah,
was
that's true.
helpful to highlight its importance in that, so.
Yep.
Rich, did you have something?
No, they got it.
I don't know, I'm frustrated with the budget process in general. You know, we're supposed to be in some sort of buddy system, and I don't see that really working.
It's not as defined as it used to be.
Yeah. And so I'm starting to think that maybe we should just speak more directly to, be it either the Board of Selectmen and or Board of Finance when the budget comes up, and just go straight to them. You know, if Jack and his group want to listen in, fine, but I'm ready to just go directly to the source and say, listen, you know, we've got some observations, concerns, you know, we can have a meeting beforehand and go through that. Oh, which reminds me, it's on the agenda, but since we're talking about budgets, we have a meeting scheduled for September 11th. And that is our first ever discussion with Ed about budget prior to him formulating his budget. Okay, so that's a big opportunity for us.
For which we're very grateful.
Yes.
I'm
speak for
absolutely
very
grateful.
grateful. Look who is here, it's our special guest.
Welcome.
Sorry, we're running a little bit late, Craig is still in his meeting, so I just
Still in
didn't wait
meetings.
too long to come down.
Come on up here,
Join
Ed.
us.
Come on up here. Sit.
But you were talking about me, I kind of thought
So I don't know how you all feel about my thesis, if you will, of going direct. So, you know, I'm not really concerned if that's gonna ruffle financing budget's feathers, frankly.
I think, I'm not sure where the breakdown is occurring with the buddy system. but
Yeah.
It's worth trying to remedy that.
Oh, you know, you think we should try that first?
If it fails, or goes nowhere, unless you feel it's already been tried and failed.
Well,
I know I wasn't very proactive in reaching out to F&B in my research. I don't know how much you
No,
reached
no,
out.
I was not.
You and I didn't even collaborate as much this year as we did in previous years, but we had the same script, more or less. Because meetings are all the same.
But all right, so here's a question that I would pose then, you know, how much is the onus on us to reach out to finance and budget as opposed to them to reach back to us?
That's what's going through my head before you ask it, is I'm acknowledging I didn't reach out much. I go to the meetings myself. You're there sometimes, you're there sometimes.
Well,
Sometimes we
I
compare
don't think that
notes.
they're gonna
It's
go out of
pretty-
their way, they don't have time,
Yeah.
don't know, so I think the onus is on us.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right, so we agree on.
Before we
the onus
start
is on
going
us.
around
That's
people, we
That's
ought
a
to-
starting point. And the question is just, where do we take it?
Again, I think we're gonna start off on the right foot by meeting with Ed early on, so we can convey our priorities to Ed in September, and we can either invite F&B to join us at that, so they can observe, or, I don't mean the whole F&B.
That's a good idea, actually.
I mean, just, if
Well,
Jack- if
we
Jack
always
is
have one
back,
person that's.
Yeah, only if he's bound and gagged.
That's fine. I'm fine
Okay,
with
but
that.
he can listen.
No, I think that'd
you know?
be constructive.
But I'm just saying so that-
Does F&B have like?
A designated person.
Yeah, so if they've got a designated person for public works, then that person should be at
That
our
would make
meeting
sense.
when we talk about budget with
That's
Ed.
fair.
All right.
And again, we're not asking for their feedback.
Everyone's hearing the same thing.
But they were invited, and they They were invited. There was supposed to be, the two F&B liaisons were supposed to be with us during one of those meetings and just didn't join the meeting.
We should invite them
But
to
we should
September
invite them.
11th.
If they show up, they show up.
All right, so I'm gonna reach out to Jag. I'm gonna make him aware of the fact that we're gonna have an early meeting with Ed about the next upcoming budget. I'm gonna say if you are going to have, if we are to continue with the buddy
And the
system-
intent of that meeting,
Okay.
Ed, right, is to convey our priorities and our interests to
Yes.
Ed as inputs at the start of Ed's budgeting.
Yeah, at a time
Correct.
when it's
We'll have some
helpful,
influence,
or, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
and I'll say to him, you know, if you wanna send a rep,
Come and listen.
yeah, you're fine, you're welcome to sit in.
We're not asking for anybody. We're allowing you to.
I would concur. I would also say that earlier in the formal budget process, the formal budget gets presented by the town administrator and to the first selectman in January effectively. And that's the first time we get our eyes on the budget. That, but at that moment, and we need to review kind of what we know of the budget at that point, so that we can provide any input throughout the Board of Selectmen's view of the budget and the Board of Finance. By the time it gets to us at the very end, kind of doesn't matter.
That cake is baked
So
at that point.
the cake is fully baked. So if we're gonna have any opinions or feedback, it's gotta be done in the January, February timeframe, not in the June timeframe.
I agree,
Okay. That's good.
I agree.
So,
All right. So, we have Ed Gentile here, Supervisor of Public Works for the town of Darien. And the subject tonight is an initiative that's been, to my understanding, years in the making, almost like a movie production. Cast of thousands.
I'm wondering if you have some more things you want to talk about. Just waiting on Craig to get.
Oh, you want to try and kill more time?
If you don't have anything else, I'll go through it.
We talk about budget.
you get us wound up.
Well, we could kill maybe a few more minutes.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna call on Mark. Mark, was there a meeting last night by
Yes.
GIAC? And was there anything significant that came out of that meeting that you can share with the committee?
Yes, so, in no particular order, let me see if I can. I'll start with the website was launched with some items you can purchase related to Great Island apparel mostly.
We have merch?
We have merch.
The merch, come on.
It has to go before the Board of Selectmen before it can be launched, but yes, there's merch. So that's one item. Two, the benches that the RTM have approved. Recommendations were considered and specific models selected for the benches, the picnic tables, and Adirondack chairs. So I think it's an 8-week delivery on the benches. These are pretty heavy duty, so do the math. When they come with the Adirondack chairs, will be approximately 4 weeks from when they're ordered. And that's being sent to the Board of Selectmen to act on.
Be in time for hurricane season.
And then there was this is probably the most important thing, is the most recent update on the master plan was presented last night. I'm going to circulate to all the chairs of the committees in the next day or so a link to that, because I think it's very, very important to look at this version. It really has, it continues to have these phases, the access phase, early action, early phases, and then some latter phase, near term, and then the final phase is possibility. And high level, I shouldn't paraphrase, but high level, less is more. The access, getting people on and off the island safely, putting in place a flow pattern, with parking spaces, ADA spaces, all stuff I presented the other day, or a week or two ago at the RTM, but now you can start to see very granular what's being done. With regard to the longer term assets on the property of the buildings, by and large, the ones that are being retained are going to be can't remember what the right word is, but prepared for, prepared to prevent further damage or to store them, basically.
Yeah.
Mothballed is what some people use, but that's not the word we used last night.
Okay.
And so, a lot was accomplished last night. What's most important to know is there's yet another meeting on July 9th, which we'll go over yet another refinement of the plan. And then after that, shortly thereafter, is going to be the final plan. So we're down to the fine stroke. So I think it's important to look at this as it currently stands. There was an update on access, on the access road, because work did start. You probably know more than I know about this, but work did start on 23A. The work that was being done, I guess, is temporarily finished. And let's see, when the next contractor is available, it'll be, I think it's around July 9th. And then there's a possibility of it being closed for additional work where they're going to have to close it down for safety reasons or access reasons around July 21st or 28th, depending on when that contractor is available. So people are asking, why was it open? Why was it closed? Why was it open? Why was it closed? It was open. Contractors did some work. They finished what they were doing. I keep it closed if they're not working. It's been reopened. I understand they're going to do some work possibly around the 9th. Apparently that work doesn't require closing, but we were given the heads up last night that somewhere around the 21st or the 28th, work is going to resume that will probably require closing it again. High level, those are the things we talked about last night. Raise your hand. Yes.
Can I ask how much the benches cost in the end?
I don't have that paperwork with me, but it was a big chunk of the 100,000.
It was?
I was personally surprised how expensive, I don't want to say commercial grade, but municipal grade, high quality, nice benches. We did, so they showed us several different materials and went with cast iron and wood. They're very classic.
But that was a lot of the grumbling I heard.
Yeah,
during that
it was
RTM
amazing
meeting.
to me
$100,000,
how expensive.
right, yeah.
Even the Adirondack chairs were a multiple of what you and I would possibly buy them for if we bought them on our own.
Okay.
They're heavier grade, sustainable materials, lots of things that cost money. But I'll be happy to circulate. Oh, when I send you the link to the plan, I can also send you a link. It's all on the website already. A link to the cost seg of the 2 or 3 different packages that we looked at. They ended up having to reduce by 2 the count of chairs that were in the proposal 1, which is the one we went with, because we had to match up with, if you recall, the RTM resolution had a very specific count.
Yes.
And the package the consultant recommended had 2 extra chairs, so you had to match it up. But sans that, you'll see very clearly how much every bench costs, the shipping, and it's the lion's share of that 100,000. I don't want to quote the number.
No, that's okay. I was just curious because that's what I had heard.
Yeah, I have a question is, when are the consultants finished with their
The engagement?
yeah, it's in July.
It's in July.
In July.
That's why I'm emphasizing, look at the current plan. There'll be one more page turn, if you will, presentation at the 9th that we're meeting. And then shortly thereafter, I'm pretty sure we have a regular meeting. Usually it's the 3rd week in June, July, 3rd week of the month, so I suspect that.
So all of this was part of what the consultants are already, kind of a preliminary idea, or?
Well, this is way past preliminary. This has been refined and refined.
No, but by who? By you?
Interactive with the Great Island Advisory Committee. It's gone around. If you look at
And the consultants.
and the consultant,
In the public hearings.
there's been, it's gone back and forth. Many. We've been averaging 2 or 3 a month over the past several months, and at least 1 or 2 a month going back to since it was formed.
I'm just wondering what the hurry was. Why not wait till the consultants had finished?
On what, the benches?
Yeah.
Well, that seemed to That's a separate
That-
entity.
We're not relitigating that.
Yeah, that's,
That was not driven by the consultant.
No.
That wasn't approved, that wasn't put forward by the consultants.
The timing was driven by folks in town.
Well, I mean, my criticism is you're putting in the park benches, but public has no access to drive and get there, you know, what, they're gonna walk in with their picnic, and sit down, and possibly, they'll be ready, what, in September?
About 4 weeks. So we'll be there 4 weeks. It is what it is. It's, you know, some people wanted benches right away, some people were, what's the rush? And
Yeah.
that's why probably the vote was, well,
So it was pretty close.
for a myriad of reasons, but
I look forward to getting a copy of the latest, if you will.
Yeah.
To your recollection, is there any address in any way about governance?
there is, to the extent, because most of the major projects, as far as the buildings, what to do with the great house, or the manor, as we call it. The long-term comments around those are, the greenhouse is another one. Putting in place governance around an organization or a group that maybe has an interest in doing something in conjunction with the town on those types of projects or buildings or assets. So as far as governance on the island overall, it's still the town government.
So is GIAC going to continue in perpetuity?
No. This part of GIAC. As far as you're concerned,
right?
So, but it's not specifically addressed.
Okay, that's what I
Just a quick detailed question. You mentioned is it a meeting on July 9th or a hearing on July 9th?
Meeting.
Just a regular meeting of?
Regular meeting. July 9 would be a special meeting because our meetings, I think, are the third week of every month. So every meeting beyond the one regular scheduled one we have.
becomes a special.
Meeting.
So
Yeah,
it's
like
a special
us.
meeting of GIAC?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And I'm just observing that July 9th is the same day
Day.
as the public hearing with the consultants on
The
the plan of
consultant.
conservation development.
Yeah, the POCD.
So-
Wasn't cognizant of that.
Yeah.
I'm just calling out because I was confused for a moment and then I
No.
realized we're talking about something different.
No, you were not confused, Frank.
Yep.
Oh, I can report internally, I was definitely confused.
Okay, all right.
Now, I'm looking for my notes from last night. I wrote down July 9th would be the next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. You're welcome. I'm sorry, just because I haven't seen the final plan, in 5 words or less, can you tell me what happened with the manor house, the great house?
Most of the buildings are going to be, I'm not using the right term, but stored, prepared to be
Preserved.
preserved. I don't want to use the word mothball.
Flash frozen.
Hermetically sealed.
But
Yeah, prevent bricks from falling, that's about it.
prevent further
Deterioration.
deterioration.
So secured in some way.
Secured and to prevent further deterioration, to prevent the rise of other additional maintenance items beyond the condition it's already in. They've already been, so most of them have already been sealed,
Okay.
weatherized, and
So they're gonna preserve, not restore, but preserve to.
until something is decided
Until
what to do with them.
Another day in the.
Most of those buildings require major investment, and not having a specific identified early access or near-term use for them. Some of the buildings do, some of the smaller buildings do, and you'll see that in the plan. But there again, near-term is like a 3-year horizon. So you gotta do something with these buildings otherwise to prevent them from deteriorating even over the next 2 or 3 years.
But for the longer term it's do whatever is necessary to preserve where it is, prevent further deterioration, but not restore it to something, because we don't know what it's gonna be.
Exactly. Yeah, you won't see in immediate term or near term anything about improving the buildings, except 1 or 2 exceptions on the near term around the specifically the carriage house is one, and then the carriage house possibly, And then the root cellar adjacent to the greenhouse, or possibly, in the near term, converting that to a bathroom public.
Any clearing of buildings like by the beach, those buildings by the beach?
The TBD, but there was debate several weeks ago about the bathhouse. Not the little beach house, the cute little beach house, but the one next to it, the bathhouse.
Yeah.
Should they stay or should they go?
And what about the building behind, what was that?
The White House?
Huh?
I don't know which building you're referring to, the building by the,
It's in the beach area, but just further back.
the squash?
The squash court, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so far,
It's still there?
it's all still, they're all still
Yeah,
there.
I know they're still there, but I mean, it will be there, it's still,
And the current plan was still on the
Did-
map to be there.
Uh-huh.
I noted in the meeting last night that I didn't see the White House on the plan anymore. Again, nothing's been finalized,
Yeah.
but
But in the plan, that was
that
was planned to be demolished.
was one that the consultants felt there wasn't any significant architectural merit to retaining. So that, we like to bring.
And no, Mark, please, honest as the day is long, especially in the summertime. But my understanding had been that the White House was the one that had been most recently inhabited, and therefore, if it...
Oh, no, there are several that have been most recently inhabited. The one adjacent to the mansion, called the
The dolphin?
Is it Dolphin House, the one?
Yeah, I think you're right.
That one had tenants in it until probably within the past year. The greenhouse, I think, still has a tenant.
Yes, that was the renewal.
Am I right?
That was
You're right here.
renewal.
I forgot, you're right next to me.
Just nodding in concurrence.
Yeah. Are you doing any of this?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Doing fine.
Yeah, I'm walking a tightrope. Yeah, I think the White House did, I know it had tenants in it, but I don't know when they left. But several buildings have had tenants fairly recently, Frank.
Got it.
So, nothing's final until the plan is approved.
Of course.
But most buildings that you all have seen, if you've walked it, are intended to be preserved in their current state until something is decided. Your turn, or phase 3B, the last phase, which is kind of still referred to as possibilities.
Mark, there is in the current master plan a set of infrastructure requirements, including new sanitary pump, sewer pump stations and a main force connection, water main extension from Great Island Road, electric utility extensions, and the natural gas storage is required. Are those in phase 1, phase 2, or are those just sometime in the future?
If you're making me open the presentation, in the near future.
I would think that'd be pretty early in the game.
It is, but I
We're
want to
gonna
make sure
dig
I
up,
put it.
we're
I'm
gonna
say
dig
it,
up a
I'm
bunch of
gonna put-
spots, so.
Yeah, where is it? Base improvements, 3A. So you've got your early access. I just want to go through and look at this because it could straddle both of those. Unless you know it, you want to jump in, but I want to, it's either early access or,
He's enjoying us.
yeah. I can't find that page. Are you on that page? You pointed to?
Oh, no, I'm on the page in the report, but I don't understand where it falls in the sequence of timing.
Well, the early access is mostly the flow diagram. I'm looking for that. I don't know that they're doing the utilities. I would think you would do them before you put the utilities are going under the road as part of the flow, I would think are going in. I don't know decisively. But we've always talked about if you're tearing up a road, putting in the utilities before then.
Right.
yeah.
But there's also, as part of the utilities, stuff going to other parts of the island, not where the flow is.
Yeah.
So, in my mind, I would think, I don't know if they're all going in at once, or do you just do the part that's under the road where the flow is in the early access? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, because you've got connections down to that bathhouse
Yeah,
area there.
I don't know.
For example.
We didn't
that is
get
not
into that
paved,
level of detail.
But they're on the plan, so I'm just
Yes.
interested. It's like, okay, kind of the infrastructure stuff is we can, just Public Works domain.
All right, I'll jump in just a little
Yeah.
bit. Just so you know, it's impossible to build out the whole infrastructure in one shot. So I think what they've walked through is early access, getting a lot of that infrastructure underground, so you don't have to dig it up again. And there may be one or two other areas where they take either electric or sewer or water to a stopping point, and then institute the rest of the master plan. You'll institute the rest of the infrastructure that you need. I think that's what they were talking about throughout the process.
Okay,
I think
So
the
that is-
bathroom is a good idea.
so a bunch of that will be in the
Bathroom's
first
a great
phase.
idea.
Yeah, because you can see,
Early
where-
bathroom.
you can see where the sewer lines all go under the same road. That's
Yeah.
part of the
Right.
early access.
Yes.
But the lion's share of it, now that I found the page, is not near the early access part.
Right.
So I don't know enough about how it works. Can you do it in phases? I presume you can.
Yeah.
I think you're touching on.
Got it.
All right, well, Ed, I'm sorry, but
You did your best.
I'm pretty much
Copy what
trying to put whatever we
hopefully
could
hand out.
cover.
So I'm gonna
How did I
give
do?
this to you. Just a little bit more. It's just a lot. The first page is a lot of numbers, and the rest of the pages are a lot of graphs. So I think you'll see why I wanted to make sure you were looking at this when I was talking. Or when Craig comes through the door right now, maybe.
Perfect, thank you.
I was saying we had him out last night late with GIAC. He was there last night.
Yeah, he's working his business company, he has to work once in a while, so I guess right now it's.
We all do sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, just the first page, and just, so you see the most important column on here is column D. And it represents our percentage of the flow through the Stamford water treatment plants, wastewater treatment plant. So what that is the percentage of the overall is what we end up paying. So whatever attributable costs, whether it be capital or operating, that have been defined by our contract with them, and it's been beaten up pretty good by my predecessor, and I did a little number on it too about 6-7 years ago, just to get us to where we're paying for what we use over there to treat our sewage. So that's the number that's the most important. And as you see, that line in between, we had to add in 2 more crossings that were never included in the original contract. We tried to phase them in, but you see that it jumped up there, and we've been carrying it ever since. So the other item you should look at is column J. And I want you to notice that the numbers for annual rainfall all continue to rise.
Yeah, what's this year's? I bet you we're gonna go way past that.
Yeah. So, these are another contributing factor. So what this whole ordinance resolution that we're putting forward, this initiative, is to eliminate a portion of the I&I, which is inflow, direct connection from a sump pump. And we've been kicking it around for about 6 years, well, if you can go that, about 6 or 7 years on how do we get people to comply. No one's gonna let anyone in their house to look at anything. No one's gonna, sometimes voluntarily do it. We've sent out in the last 5 years notices with all our bills that say, hey, if you have a sump pump, you shouldn't. If it's connected to the sanitary sewer, it shouldn't be. And by ordinance, by state plumbing code, it should not be. So we tried the soft method. That's been in your bills 5 of the last 6 years. With that said, we started our I&I program back in 2019. We're just ready to bid the 3rd rehab phase to the tune of about $1.7 million worth of work, and that includes pipelining, lateral sections of lateral lining. There's manhole recovery, there's epoxy inside. We're basically trying to make our system watertight to groundwater. And some of the manholes that are in flood hazard zones, we're trying to make them watertight to flood waters 2-3 feet deep when it overtops those manholes. So we just finished phase 2. That was about $1.9 million. We're into phase 3. This is the final phase of the original I&I study. So what the study did was take an area of town called Stony Brook. It's about 2/3 of our overall sewer system. 39 meters in there, and we decided, okay, we're gonna run that at high groundwater. It's a high groundwater season in April, March, April, May, and determine where our pipes are flowing at 2 o'clock in the morning, because they really shouldn't be. And with that information, you start to decide and identify areas that groundwater is getting in. And with that, you rate it from 1 to 5. And when you're done looking at it and you map it out, it was interesting. You'll see certain areas that were lower areas, lay low areas. If you were closer to rivers, groundwater is high. It was getting into our systems. Those pipes are all red and purple. The other ones that were good were green, and you could see the areas. It was quite illuminating, if you will. So with that, all the information, we came up with the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And we continue to do our camera work, identifying, point locations that need repairs or areas that maybe have infiltration that we didn't pick up with the metering. We pick up with the cameras. You notice that with after rainwater, high groundwater season, or even staining on the pipes and manholes. So phase 3 will be a tell. It's down by the Goodwise Shopping Center. It's one of our higher areas for infiltration and inflow. So we're interested to see how that does. Again, always coming back to, there's a section of inflow going into our system that we have to try to manage. We have to make a concerted effort, because we send almost 900 million gallons to Stamford every year, and about half of it is I&I.
Is what?
Half of it is
Half of
I&I,
I&I.
which is basically stormwater, groundwater, one that we don't need to treat, and two, we shouldn't be treating, because it shouldn't be in our system.
What are we paying Stamford per million gallon?
Cut to the chase on me there. Okay, let's get to that. We pay almost $3.6 million to the city of Stamford for treatment of our sewage.
And half of that's I&I, roughly.
That's I&I.
But can we come back to your contractual point just a moment ago? If we wave a magic wand and cut all the I&I off,
Yeah.
our cost would not be cut in half.
No,
Because there's a minimum payment as part of the contract.
There's a stopgap at 12%, we can't go below.
Correct.
By the time we are done with these 3 phases, and we're looking to start another engineering phase, let's say, investigative phase, in another section of town. We've noticed some upticks after stormwater events that indicate our pumps are running a day longer than all the others in town. So it means we're getting water into our system somehow, and it's an increase. And these areas are closer to the coastal areas, they're low-lying areas, possibly where people have basements that use sump pumps. So after a larger storm or higher groundwater with some rain, our pump stations are running a little bit longer. So we want to start targeting those areas now too, with the second phase of engineering. With that all said, we will reach the end of this extension in 2028, 2029, just about the time we're getting into that second phase of engineering design for rehab. That's going to be the time where we're going to negotiate that 12% down, or we're going to try to. We're going to bring it up. It's going to be a point of, negotiation, of course, like anything else. There's hard costs that they absorb because we are a big consumer, a big customer of theirs. But there's also a lot of money that we spent removing water from their treatment system over there. That's allowed for them to expand their city to build more residential units. So we're taking away, they're filling up. So there has to be.
We've given them capacity.
Absolutely.
So Ed, if I'm reading this correctly, right now, our percentage is, as of 2024, 15.2?
That's correct. That was this past year.
Yes.
And And as you see previously,
Yeah, the high was in 2019 at 15.8.
yeah, and look at the rain number.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can see our higher numbers in our Darien totals to column B are directly related to the flows that we're getting from rain, the inches of rain every year. Again, taking us back to, okay, we've treated the pipes, we're taking care of the manholes, we're sealing our system.
So you feel like the share of I&I that's coming from non-sump pump sources like leaks and cracks or whatever, you've been addressing that?
We are, and we will continue to address it in other areas of town. Now, we have to swing back and take care of the one thing that we've all been contemplating how to do
Skirting around.
it. Yes, yes.
I'm gonna have another question later, but can you remind me, what does I and I mean? Inflow and?
Infiltration.
Infiltration, okay, thank you.
And inflow is a direct connection to a pipe. Infiltration is where it's infiltrating through the pipe, through cracks, through fissures, whatever openings and manholes and things like that from groundwater. All right, so that's page 1. Now, just kind of giving you a graph of what you were looking at before we put, Craig had put some of these together. So as you see, our flows per year continue to gradually go up.
What happened in 2019?
It rained a
A lot
lot.
of rain.
That was a lot of rain?
If you look on here,
Look at the last
it
page.
was 60
First page.
inches there.
Oh,
It's expected to be
okay.
62 inches here.
Look at the last
So
page.
that-
Last page shows you this.
So that data you looked at, is some of these graphs, they come directly from it. That's how he made this, but I want you to give them a picture. The hope is after 2024, 2025, you start to see this trend start to level off and go the other direction. That's the intent of the program. Chart number 2, if you look at our residential, commercial use of water from Aquarion, we're doing a good job in
Yeah.
reducing our usage.
It's really good.
What we're trying now is to do a better job with being stewards of our infrastructure.
Are we on another restriction on water usage with Aquarian now this year again? I don't know.
I haven't heard of anything.
Yeah, I haven't
Just
either.
always assume we are.
But yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, just, can you remind me, is the set of homes or businesses that take water from Aquarium the exact same as the ones that put water into that put their wastewater into the sewers? Is it like a 99% match, is it an 80% match? I'm trying to,
What we're asking are the ones that have actually Aquarian water, do they actually have sewer or septic? Is that the question?
Correct, like how many,
How much does overlap?
I don't know the numbers of that, but I can tell you that our sewer system covers about 80 to 85% of the town, number-wise.
okay.
And I think, I don't know of a whole lot of how many wells there are out there, so I really can't, but I'm sure there's more people that have water that are still on septic, or up in the upper areas of Darien.
Aquarian water, but a septic for
Septic for the sewage treatment.
So in theory, it's not an exact match to do the subtraction because
No.
the water that somebody up by Oxford is taking
But
it from Aquarium.
the water use numbers you see here are just the people that have sewers.
Oh, okay, so you matched those sets up.
If you have sewer, we have your matching water usage,
Got it.
and that's what I use to define it.
Okay.
So this is 1 to
This is,
1.
This is-
right. This is for the population of people with sewers.
That's correct.
Understood, thank you very much.
Sorry for that confusion.
That's okay.
Darien I&I portion will flow to the Stamford, as you see. It has been going up. It's trending up still. And that, the idea again is to turn that around. And if you look at our total flows per year, they're pretty steady.
So in 2024, we had over 500 million gallons of I&I. Did you say 525? Remind me, how many sewer hookups are there in town? How many?
We have about 5450, so almost 5,500.
Okay. So 5,000 hookups divided by 500 million gallons is implying that 1,000 hookups divided by 100 million gallons is one hookup by 100,000, you think it's 100,000 gallons of I&I per hookup?
No.
I'm just doing the math, right? I mean-
Yeah.
I mean, if every single person.
But it's not for a hookup, it's the main lines in the street, it's the main lines that carry our sewer, the laterals and stuff like that are not.
Yeah, it's more than just the hookups.
Yeah, you can relate it like that just to have a number, but that's not the way you would analyze what the impact is per lateral, if you will. Every time I put a lateral in, it's gonna be another 100,000 gallons. That's not it.
Well, another contributing factor could be the expansion that we've had within the town with all the construction,
Sure.
the commons, polymers.
We're using more water, but then again, now we're also trying to reduce our I&I at the same time. It's kind of why our numbers are staying steady a little bit.
So in your count of 5,400 hookups, one big building like the Corbin District, are you counting that as one hookup for a building or one hookup for each apartment? You're probably doing it as one per building.
Yeah, the water meter is a determining factor. On that and the way the tax collector lists their properties, because of the way the water company lists theirs. So we will treat it, if you have 1 meter, we're gonna treat the 1 meter. If you have multiple meters, we will treat the multiple meters. But those larger buildings, they generally have just 1 meter
Yeah.
and they split. They'll just split the flows and meter it themselves for billing purposes as renters. But for us, the water company will have 1 meter in there that we.
But I'm coming back to, again, just the basic math. If there's 5,500 meters around town and 500 million gallons of I&I, we're saying that, again, just per meter, there's 90 to 100,000 gallons of I&I. I'm just doing that as a ratio.
Yeah.
It may or may not be helpful, right? But, and so some of that I&I is coming from infiltration, meaning stuff that is not a direct hookup. And you're addressing that in the multi-stage process you just described.
Correct.
And then theoretically, a larger and larger percentage of that is coming from inflow, some of which is illicit sump pumps.
Correct.
But it just seems like 90,000 gallons per hookup on average. Seems like an incredible amount of rainwater.
Sounds like a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just flabbergasted. I mean, that's like how many swimming pools is that? I mean,
And you have to, if I was to tell you it's a steady flow, infiltration is when the groundwater's high. The peaks that we get in some of these rainstorms, our pumps will be all out. And I'll give you Stony Brook for instance. It generally runs about 1 MGD,
sorry, 1
million gallons per day.
Okay.
Sort of rate of flow. During the larger storms back in 2019 and 2020, we were pushing out 4.5, and we were pushing it out for about 3 days. So all of that flow, 3.5 million gallons per day. That's a lot of rainwater to be pumping through there. Because we didn't add any residential and commercial units. So that spike, it's not linear, if you will. It spikes, and
of course.
And the next graph, you're going to see what I'm talking about too, about the yearly flows. But I want you to look at it as if it's monthly too. The higher the rainfall, the more we have I&I, if you will.
So the sort of summary version of this is there's infiltration through cracks and fissures, we're addressing that. There's sump pumps, we're going to talk about how we want to address that. But then the big thing is rainwater getting in. Is your 3-phase plan addressing the rainwater, or is that going to be a separate effort?
No, absolutely addressing it. We do, what they do is there's smoke tests and dye tests. Smoke tests will get you direct connections to our sanitary sewer. We fill the sanitary sewer with smoke, and you're looking for where smoke's out. So we've identified the small vents at people's houses. We'll see smoke coming out, right? Or we'll see catch basins on our streets. We found a couple of those connected to the sanitary sewer. So
Really?
we go in and we disconnect them and we connect them to the storm system. Those are direct connections that we can eliminate.
So you pump smoke into the sanitary sewer and you find smoke coming out of people's, what?
Oh, well, they could be like there's small little catch basins in their driveway. We found a couple of those. Yes.
How does that happen? Sorry.
Really?
No, go ahead.
That's a good question, but the answer is.
Somebody did something they shouldn't do.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, okay, so here's my question. I'm trying to get a sense of how many illegal sump pumps are there? And like, does everybody have an illegal sump pump? Do people know they have an illegal sump pump? Do people not know that their sump pump is illegal? Is every sump pump, are half of them legal, half of them illegal?
You're stealing my thunder here.
Oh,
I
no.
don't know what I'm gonna do now. But those are all really, really good questions, and looking at our affidavit, we addressed all of those situations. Do you know you have one? Is it yes, do you know where it's connected? Because you can have one, they're legal, but they just can't be connected to the sanitary sewer. And what we're gonna find out here is when we send all of this out to our residents or commercial properties is. I'm late.
We're done.
Your voice.
But not quite lucky enough.
What we're gonna do when we send this out to all the residents, commercial properties, is collect the data you just asked about. How many are there? How many are out there? I think we've anticipated possibly 80% of the folks will respond the first time. I mean, we'll put it out. We have a nice cover letter we put together. And folks, I'll say this now, and Craig's here now too. Thank you. I went through your graphs too. They were actually pretty helpful.
That's my favorite part.
Any comments that you have, even if you want to give them to me in written form,
I will.
send me an email, whatever it
Yeah,
is.
I have.
The idea is to get people to buy into this. If you have a sump pump and it's where it's supposed to be, check the box, send it back to us. If you don't have one, check the other box and send it back to us. We're gonna get about 80%, I'm figuring, the first time around. And we'll send one out, let's say, next January. We'll give you 90 days to respond. There's a piece in here too that if you don't respond, in October, you're gonna see a $250 fine on it. The sewer commission.
Okay, there's it.
The sewer commission.
There it is.
The sewer commission had asked that maybe after the 90 days, first year we'll send you a reminder. Hey, remember this form we sent you? We'd really like it back. But the teeth that we were able to put into it, and I think the sewer commission batted this around in 100 different ways, trying to be empathetic, trying to be fair, trying to be all the things that they are on a regular basis at their meetings is, okay, we've had enough. We've asked you nicely, we've sent them reminders, we're gonna ask you nicely again, can you help us out? Because it's costing you more money. The rates, they go up because costs go up. They go up because the treatment in Stamford goes up, their cost to do it goes up. So we own that. The only way we're going to reduce cost or at least level them out or drop them to the point where it makes a difference is by removing the amount of flow we send over to the city of Stamford treatment. And that's what this is kind of all about right now.
So I have a little bit of a follow-on. What do you do with the people who look at the form, and I did see the form, and say, oh, I have a sump pump, but I have no idea what it's hooked up to, and they say, I don't know, I'm putting it over here and wait until my husband comes home, and then they forget about it, or they just don't address it. How do you, I think there's gonna be a lot of people who don't know the answer.
So the two things, one, kind of unofficially what we plan to do is after that first 90 days, we're just going to send another notice out. We're not going to start finding people first time around. We're going to give them a little grace and send another notice out, right? And then maybe we'll start. But what we have baked into the regulation and both baked into the form is, if you don't know, find a qualified individual. And that could be plumber, builder, anyone deemed to have some expertise in the idea that they could figure out what a sump pump is and where it's connected. So,
But we're not saying the town will send somebody out to check, right?
I don't have the manpower, we don't have the manpower to do it now.
could be a friend of yours that, engineer. I'm not putting my number on this.
Call Craig.
Call Craig.
Okay, no, that's fair, but, and that was definitely the sense I got. I do think there's gonna be people, if you get 80%
Sure.
response, I would be really impressed.
Well, with the penalty, you will.
I think that,
Yeah.
that's, I think, I won't speak for you, the sewer commission kind of bought into how do we get compliance without without penalty, if you will.
Part of part of this, it's like a method to try to focus on where this extra water is coming from, right? So in the same way, we look at the public side of the system, and we put in flow meters, and we look at manholes, and we do smoke testing. You know, we're trying to narrow down where the really leaky pipes are so that we can line them and so forth. Same here, we're trying to narrow down where this extra water is coming from. So if we get a whole bunch of responses that everybody's kosher, great. We can now line up those neighborhoods. You know, how many, oh, it's a low-lying neighborhood and we have 37 people that haven't responded, you know, like, it'll tell us.
Okay.
It's information.
I like your question though. So someone gets this letter, they don't know, they hire the consultant to look, oh crap, I'm connected. I don't want to submit this. Do they have time to remedy the situation before they have to?
An additional 6 months, so they can sign the form.
Got it.
And they can say, yes, it's connected, and automatically at that point, they have another 6 months to address it. And then look, there's also the provision like there is with our user fees, right? That someone does not feel the user fees are proper or fair, that the redress is that they can appeal to the commission. So if there's extenuating circumstances, hardships, we'll hear those.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think, I fully support this, by the way. You know, I think it's, of course. I think people don't have any idea. Like a few people have an idea, and most people have no idea that clean water is an issue at all.
Yeah.
You know, they don't know what our arrangement with Stamford is, so.
We met with the first selectman a few days ago just to brief him as well. And his guidance was actually really helpful, was kind of take that cover letter and turn it into a little bit of an educational document.
Yeah.
You know, and say,
Yeah, that's kind of what.
yeah, those
my
were your
only
comments.
comment,
Yeah, yeah.
just,
And start with, you know, this is
need
what
something,
this is what our
is why.
separated sanitary sewer is. You know, this is the problem with clean water in it, you know, and really walk them through it.
I would also lead with like, help us keep your taxes down or something, like
Yeah.
in your best
Yeah.
interest.
Agreed. Like the notices that we sent out previously, is we need your help.
Yeah, well, that's true, that's true. We did say that. Sorry.
Is there any suggestion of a remedy if one should find that they are hooked up? All right, so you unhook it, now what do I do? I unhook it and put the water where?
Yeah.
Your basement.
It's got to go outside, it's got to connect to a storm system, you know, those are going to be case-by-case basis. I guess we could say, if you have one hooked up and you have questions about what to do with it, you know, give us a call. I'm serious, very interested in that.
But you can't hear it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but
getting
to
a
do that,
call
would the
already.
answer be to call Ed, or would it be to call Mike Beatty with the building department? I mean,
Yeah, I
those
mean,
would be
look, at
ones-
the end of the day, there could be very complicated situations that involve wetlands or being, you know, like, we don't know yet. But I think if someone is like, what do I do now? And just needs someone to say, here's 2 or 3 ideas, I mean, I think Ed's prepared to take those calls.
I'm pretty sure that the onslaught at the beginning is gonna be a lot of good questions from people that may not have had to deal with this before, or, you know, just bought the house and aren't even sure what they have, and their basement is all nice sheet rock and paint and
Yeah,
nice trim.
closet somewhere.
They have no idea what's down there. I could foresee that happening, and it's gonna be a process at the beginning, if you will. We're all gonna feel our way through this. The last thing I wanna do is find someone that's trying to work with us to do this. So checking the box that says you have it, but you don't know where it's going, or you have it and it is connected to the sanitary sewer, doesn't make you a bad person. It just gets you 6 months to resolve it. And as you heard from Craig, if you come to us and say, look, we just don't know what to do. We even brought an engineer in, because this is one of those the sewer commission would like to hear about.
Yeah.
Again, the $250 fine goes away as you try to work with us. As soon as you stop working with us, though,
Yeah.
We need a little bit of a stick.
Is there a, I'll call it a secondary communication plan, like, you know, putting something in the first selectman's newsletter or whatever to like.
He said he'd do one of his videos about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do the whole
Do we have a
town.
plan around that too?
Yeah, we're gonna exploit the town's resources for the job.
Can I just ask also, just knowing our clientele in the town, right? We have, there are gonna be, I think, a number of people who have sump pumps, they're connected to the sanitary sewer, and $250 is easier to write a check than to actually fix it. So is there a plan for further prosecution of
Yeah.
folks who
Yeah.
who honestly return their form and say, hey,
And
I have
honestly,
some pump.
Cost of doing business.
Yeah, I have
I'm
some
sorry
pump
to say
that's
this
connected to
on Channel 79, but like, it would be cheaper in a lot of cases to just pay the $250 than actually pay a user fee associated with the amount of water going in. That's one of our other, there's public health, there's just capacity of our system, there's some folks that have been very interested in overflows we've had in the past, but there's also a sense of fairness, right? There are some people using that capacity and not paying for it in the way that all sewer users are paying for it. We have tried not to get too hung up in how many layers this onion is going to have, because we need to start somewhere, and starting somewhere is going to help us round down the problem, right? And then we're going to have the edge of the bell curve, and we're going to have to figure out what to do about it. Do we offer to put a meter on there or some pump discharge and read it and charge them fairly for it? And like, all of these things have been said, but I think we have to kind of see what the cases are before we design the next steps. And so we're fully anticipating that this is like the start. We'll run it for a couple of years, we'll see what happens, and then tweak.
And you're taking the 80-20 approach, let's solve the 80%, then we'll deal with the 20%
Yes,
when we get
exactly.
it.
And then, I think, the following year, we'll send them out again to the folks that didn't respond, or the ones that responded and.
But hopefully it's
they
sending,
won't-
But then,
instead of
as you
sending out
said, you can
5,000,
narrow it
it's
down.
2,000, or it's 500. and-
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
And with each time we send it out, the $250 fine is attached to it.
Is there I don't know how difficult this would be to actually implement, but to the question of, gosh, I've got this situation, I don't know what to do with it, what would do, is there like could you include like, here's a set of vendors you could call to do that, and would those people pay to be on that list? Is there a revenue opportunity for us to basically have a preferred vendor list?
That's very sticky, that I would recommend that the town not get involved in preferred
Fair enough.
contractor lists.
We do
Could be
have,
thorny for
and I don't know-
some people who.
Yeah, reach out to Angie's list.
I don't know if the sewer commissioner would entertain it, and I haven't spoken to Craig or the commissioners about it. We do have a list of engineers that reviewed our drainage manual. It's a very extensive list
Yeah.
of folks that have worked in Darien. I would never be afraid to use that, to give that list out.
Here's an email.
Hear people.
With people that work in town a lot.
There you
That's
go.
all I know about them.
They know where planning and zoning is. And they've done site plans which address drainage concern.
But if someone realizes that they have their sump pump connected to the sewer, and they want to do something about it, that water has to go out of the house, and it has to go onto their property, as I understand it, from regulations. Okay. Now, is that going to be subject to an application and go through planning and zoning for approval?
It depends on where the outlet is and whether or not it's going to cause a nuisance.
Okay, so
Going
that's.
full circle with Ian here, I first met him 15 years ago, dealing with his sump pump discharge.
That's correct.
And the whole initiative was launched.
Craig, help me fix it.
And there's opportunities if there's storm drainage in the street to tie in. The Director of Public Works has the ability to sign off on that type of condition. That's pretty much where the water belongs.
Yeah, and at this point, it's a little different administration than you had, but we're in a triage mode. Where would we rather have that water? Do we want it in our sanitary sewer, or do we want it in our storm sewer, right? Like, there's a clear answer to that question.
And the other thing, is this initiative considered an update to the existing regulations, or is this an add-on to the existing regulations? How does?
There are some new sections, yeah. We have our own regulations, and we do update them from time to time. They already have sections about illicit connections. This gives us, really, it identifies the ability to require the affidavit and give us the ability to fine.
But this is a new article of our sewer section. I'm put it at the end. There's a piece of the original ordinance, this is section 3 or something, that says you cannot connect stormwater or groundwater and such to our sanitary sewer system. This article addresses, if you do, how do we resolve it?
So,
Okay.
just thinking out, why don't we have something like at the dump, the sun itself? And just advising everybody, hey, these are the issues with sewer, septic, so.
Yeah, just to reach out, do some
Yeah,
public outreach.
give them a phone number, put a call, what to do. I think public advertisement in that manner could go a lot longer way of communicating, because there's a lot of people that might not go to Chapter 79 or town hall meetings or something, not get the information, but we all do go to the dump.
One way or another.
Now, I was thinking about, our bills are gonna be coming out in October for the sewers. In the past, we've put little pamphlets for backflow valves and sump pumps. I think this year, I'd like to put just something on sump pumps that something's coming to address it. If you have one, maybe now's a good time to identify it and see what you can do.
With all due respect, I deal with it every day, and you know from our past,
Yeah.
a lot of people just pull the bill, pay it, and throw the rest away. So they're not connected to being curious to what's all this mail and here, what's going on here. We're just creatures of habits. The bill's in, pay the bill, and that's it.
Rich, I think your point to putting it out at the dump and any other way that we could reach out to make the people aware of what's going on here, and why this is going to happen. I think that's gonna shine a better light on us going forward. And I will say, right now, the sewer commission's always been fair. They really are. They'll listen to your appeals when you come in. They are cognizant of things that happen. They're homeowners too in Darien. They are a group of 5 people that want to see a better infrastructure. They're here to protect it, but they also want the buy-in of the residents that use it. And I think this is what this first steps of this is. We need your help. We'd like some information. We have some infrastructure issues. We have capacity issues in some areas, and we need to start addressing it from a couple different areas. One of them happens to be illicit connections from some homes.
We're hoping for cooperation and compliance. We are not looking to be punitive. We just need something to get people's attention if they're either wantingly avoiding us or not paying attention.
I agree with Zagrodzky's recommendation.
Yeah, make it a little more educational.
Yeah, to try and turn it into an education. And of course, they'll get the point across that, we are gonna start to pursue this.
Yeah, we're gonna elevate things a little bit.
Well,
We don't have to hand them over that, but just include the information.
Were the affidavits or statements, were they confusing at all? I mean, I was hoping you guys to take a look at it and say, you know what, Ed, a whole lot to digest here. I had to take a look at it. I mean,
I don't think that was confusing, but I think people will start with the letter
okay.
and
Might get caught up.
And unless it's right there in the beginning of the letter, they won't even understand. They won't even go to the next page. So I agree with that too. I would put it, even
A lot of
if
work on the letter, got it.
I'd like to hear more about your thoughts, because you're calling for photographs.
Yeah.
And, okay, I'm sure a lot of people have one of these.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm sure a lot of people get dressed this way, but not necessarily everyone.
Is that getting the crawl space, or is that what you're talking about? Pictures of the sump?
Knowing
Yeah.
how to use the phone to pictures?
The reason is simply, we want to document the condition. Because it is easy enough to pull the cap off the sewer line, put 2-inch, reducer into it, reconnect it, right? So we want them a little bit on the hook for, this was the condition when we sent in the applicant.
Okay, so it's a matter of record is what you're
Yeah,
trying
that's
to
what we're trying to-
establish. Because it also asks for, I think, a date
What was the picture taken?
It was a picture taken.
and a name.
Yeah.
It's not gonna take a lot of effort, but it's gonna take some effort. And probably some education. But I mean, we're all homeowners here. I take pride in knowing what goes on in your house and how things work. And I know hopefully this will educate some people on what they have and they didn't know they had.
So, just an ignorant question. Although washers that drain off into our sewer system, how does that affect it, if any?
Washers.
So
Like water
the drainage on your wash machine, you're gonna
Yeah.
hook it up to the
Yeah,
sewer system?
Yeah.
It's part of what we expect, it's part of the system.
It's water use and we meter the water use into your
Right,
house.
so, and that's what I'm trying to get at is, I think that's where the misinterpretation of a lot of our residents could be.
Oh, like
They're seeing that
like
we're
a Johnny
doing it-
pump for the washer in the basement that goes up into something, they're like, well, what's that? It's a pump, it's going.
So they might see the two and say, I'm not doing anything wrong, so they might not have the understanding there.
Yeah, we have to work on that in the letter. Look, again, I think there's a bulk in the middle, trying to whittle down, and then there's gonna be the edge cases, and we're gonna have to kind of keep chipping away at it.
As I look at the affidavit, I'm just trying to figure out how I would fill this out. And I have 2 sump pumps, and so am I like one does go up above ground, one does go somewhere else. And so where do I fill out both, or do you need one affidavit per pump? I'm just.
Look, what we're trying to do is to ascertain that you're not hooked up to the sewer. And so you can, I mean, to answer your question, you can fill out whatever you want. So maybe we need a section with a little bit like other, with a little paragraph or something that you could.
Or add some comments at the
Yeah,
bottom.
comments.
Neither one of them goes to the sanitary sewer.
Something, I'm trying to,
I can fill yours out, Ian, but.
Well, I recognize that, but I was like thinking about how I would fill this out, and I'm not sure if you have more than one pump, is it easy to, think about it, just is it easy to figure out how to fill that?
Yeah, that's a good question. But the question I had was, ultimately this has to go through the process and the regulation has to get approved by the RTM. Is there anybody else we should be talking to hopefully make that process go as smoothly as possible?
Well, I brought up earlier about how, if this is gonna go outside of the house and it's gonna drain into the yard or whatever, it does get involved with an application, planning and zoning, and so that would be my first.
Land use.
Yeah, planning and zoning, I think, if you're gonna address another committee on the RTM, that would be the one that I think would have a tie into it, yes. Anybody else have any thoughts along that question?
I mean, isn't there a wetlands commission?
Yep.
I mean, does that commit, if you have property that has wetlands, would in theory you have to seek some?
Yeah, if you're
relief
doing
from
any
that?
disturbance or activity within 50 feet of a wetland, it would require a wetland permit.
Okay.
So,
We
yes.
all have.
You're adding to the wetland.
It's a wetland.
Improving, enhancing.
Right, enhancing the wetlands.
Does anybody else have any other questions, or is there anything else that you gentlemen wanna
I really
present?
thank you for your comments. And if you think of anything after the meeting, you want to shoot an email, feel free.
Just as you look around the neighborhood, like the storm sewers, I'm driving down the road, any road in town, like the storm sewers should be going into not the sanitary system, but the storm system.
Yeah, and they are.
So anywhere.
It's separated
Yeah.
sewer.
Right. So anywhere that I see a storm grate in the street,
Yeah.
like that would be, like there's a storm drain
Yes,
nearby.
that means there's a storm pipe, yeah,
Right.
and not a sanitary. So there's a way to get rid of the water if we needed to go that far.
Right.
Yep.
So would the committee be willing to take a consensus vote on this initiative? Frank's,
What are we voting?
Yeah.
well, just a consensus, it's not a binding vote in any way, but just a consensus that we feel that this initiative is worthwhile, and that we would encourage the
Is
sewer
this-
commission to go forward.
Is this coming before the RTM?
Would have to for the ordinance.
For the ordinance.
For the ordinance.
It's coming anyway.
So
Okay.
there's separate.
So, all right, so we'll wait for another day.
And, yeah, we're gonna be
Yeah.
asked to formally.
Yes, all right, so.
I think we have a sense of your general
Okay.
feeling about
I
it.
mean, the feeling that you're not gonna throw us out of the room and come back in.
It's a general sense of non-hostility.
There you go, there you go.
See you in September.
Just unfortunate this process, that's really good right now.
I'll take it.
Yes.
But since the problem's happening, we can't not deal with it, because it's a multi-million-dollar problem.
It
I
is.
guess just coming back to your point before, if we're spending now 15%, if we're 15% of Stamford's flow, if we magically wave the magic wand and all the I&I goes away, like we're capped at 12%, or there's a floor at 12% of what we can pay. So if we're paying 3.6 million, we could only save 20% of 3.6 million or 700,000 anyway per year. So,
But it's also a capacity issue.
It's a capacity issue.
And so-
Or until we renegotiate that.
And the other piece of it, and I think Craig did a very nice dance around it, is the eyes that are watching all towns and all their sewers and their overflows during the storms come with litigation and legal issues. And we're trying our darndest not to have them come back and talk to us about that.
second, can you just elaborate on that a little bit? You've been very,
Absolutely not.
I'm just not understanding what you mean.
Well, so look,
We're talking about
sanitary
state
sewer
regulated?
overflows, if they occur frequently and we are not doing something about it, right, is, can be considered a violation of the Clean Water Act. And any third party can sue you for violations of the Clean Water Act. And it doesn't have to, and that's it. So we're exposed if we have sewer overflows.
Any and all of our overflows must be reported to DEP regardless of how small. So anyone can look them up on the DEP website.
Correct. From my very limited exposure to the sewer commission, though, those overflows are few and far between, right? We're talking.
That's what we think.
I mean, but as far as people coming.
Oh, it is true. It is true, in fact.
Because when people have sewer overflows, they come to the sewer commission and say, hey, there's poop in my basement and you gotta help me clean it out. Right? Or I paid $5,000 to clean it out and you need to reimburse me.
I mean, so there's a clog, there's a break, there's totally understandable maintenance sort of things. And then the I&I problem, which is why we're here, right? So if we get super intense rainfalls, like, exceeding 3 inches in 4 hours or something like that, we got a couple of animals that'll start surcharging. So we got
From the sanitary system.
Yes. Gotta get the water out.
Got it. And where are those manholes so we can avoid that?
How does, random other question, how does Stamford's flow maintain complete stability? Why don't they have a growing I&I, why don't they have an I&I problem as well?
I would suggest that they have much lower miles per capita of sewer because they're denser, right? So you build a 300-unit apartment building, there are no sump pumps. And all the pipes are in the building if there is even the smallest hint of a leak gets fixed. And so they also have a good, kind of reconstruction and I&I management program. So they have a tight system, and I think the density is actually terrific. But our share of running that treatment plant has been ticking up because relatively we have a leakier system.
Yeah, all of the growth is coming from Darien.
The water treatment plant services Stamford, Darien, and what else?
That's it.
That's it?
That's enough.
Okay.
So Greenwich has their own plant, Norwalk has their own plant.
Okay. So we don't take anything from New Canaan or anything?
That goes Norwalk.
Okay.
All right, if there are no other questions, I don't want to keep it, gentlemen, any longer than is necessary.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank
you, Craig.
This is what I do all day, I edit, so.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we'll take it.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
I went into engineering because I like numbers.
I don't have anything else on the agenda, unless someone has anything else that things we should discuss tonight?
So we are officially punting on the areas of specialization.
We can go through that if you wish.
I am not in any, I'm glad to waive
Punt.
that agenda item if
Can
you.
we vote on punting?
I went,
Yeah, that's true, he did. He
I
did.
did a
which was
fantastic.
enough for all of us.
Gold star for you.
I'm waiting to hear all the others.
My area is sewer. We heard all about the sewer.
He's one up in you.
Take that.
I don't have a report, I only have an observation. because
Sure.
I did laugh at the survey results, and especially on Miss Swap Shop and the recycling, and the answers on almost every question. Some are for, some are against,
that's
nobody
interesting.
agrees. It's, you know.
You're looking from the POCD, the Plan of Conservation Development?
So,
I had another
Did have
takeaway
to
from it,
laugh.
which is that basically all, in the sort of happy face to sad face diagram, all of our stuff was at the bottom as sad face, like biking infrastructure, pedestrian infrastructure. It's like, okay.
I always thought that about biking. I felt like the rest of our stuff was reasonably, people were satisfied. Yeah.
I was kind of caught off guard with the respondents and the age groups.
Only old people responded.
Well, it wasn't
Yeah.
only old people.
Quality people.
Yeah, there was a large group
experience.
that were, you know, from being born in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. And that was
Not a lot
at
of
least half, if not
millennials.
more than
No millennials.
the respondents. And it wasn't a huge group. What was it, 1,100 people, I think, that
Who
responded?
responded. You know, people are busy with their lives.
It's survey fatigue.
Days.
It's gotta be survey fatigue. GIAC did 4.
Right,
This is
there's that.
that. There's
There's-
always lots of surveys.
You
That's
know.
a pretty good response rate.
Yeah.
It's not
That is-
bad.
All right, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm
That's a good-
spoiled because of.
No, that's very
GIAC.
Is it 5% of the time? So,
Something like 1,000.
Well, the town is what,
5,000 households, right?
22,000
Yeah.
So 5,
Yeah,
in the population of the town, so 1,100 on 22,000.
yeah.
But that 22,000 includes, you know, all the kids and
Right,
everybody.
right.
They don't care.
that is a high response rate.
Yeah.
All right, I take
The
it back.
consultant was telling us that, you know, I think our first GIAC, I can't remember the exact number, was greater than that. But they had never seen numbers that high.
Yeah.
Darien,
Yeah, maybe
I mean,
Darien.
I make it a policy never to respond to any surveys, because if you did, and I did respond to that one, by the way, you would be doing it all day long.
Yeah.
yeah.
And they're local, like,
All right, well, if there isn't anything else, then we are going to
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? All right, that's the end
Thanks,
of
Rolf.
that meeting.
Thank you.